Hey guys, it's me, Bobby, and this is Bedtime Terror, the show where I typically watch a scary movie before bed and then let you know how I think I'm going to sleep that night. But today I'm doing something a little different. Instead, we're going to be talking about the free horror movie Iceberg. Let's dive in. So, the free horror movie Iceberg is Iceberg I put together completely by myself. It consists of horror movies as of May 1st, 2021 that are completely free and ad-free for you to watch right here. So save some money and enjoy a few scares and, give it a look. So the Iceberg consists of 5 levels, descending from good for beginners to how is this on YouTube? And they're ranked based on the scares and obscurity. The movies range in eras from the 1970s to present day, and each level has a variety of genres. So there's going to be something for everyone, whether you're into slashers, zombies, anything in between, it's on this Iceberg. With the exception of 2 movies, all of them are rated R or worse. And I've tried to keep spoilers to a minimum as much as possible. So that way you won't have to worry about anything being ruined for you. If this is something that, you think that you'd like, then give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. If you want me to review any of these movies in particular, I'll totally be open to. And subscribe to the channel. I'll be making more content like this very shortly, I promise. I typically upload much more regularly. So level 1 is good for beginners of horror. Most of these titles offer a good mix of like campy comedy as well as suspense and some tension with some, scares mixed in. So that way it's good for the novice viewer, but also will hold the attention of someone who is an avid watcher or, used to watching scary movies. These are the kind of movies that would be good for when you're babysitting a little kid and they want to watch something scary because their parents are away, or the type of movies that you would have watched as a preteen at like a pajama party. So think of that type thing. With that in mind, let's get into level 1, starting with House, 1985. This is a supernatural horror comedy about a troubled author who moves into his deceased aunt's house he inherited after she takes her own life and his son disappears while visiting her. This movie has gone on to be a cult classic. And yes, despite the dark premise, I promise you this is a horror comedy. Night of the Comet, 1984. This is the lone PG-13 movie on the Iceberg. This is a fun sci-fi horror that's about 2 valley girls who survive a comet hitting Earth and has turned most people into zombies as they try to stay alive in post-apocalyptic LA. Popcorn, 1990. This movie is about a group of film students who decide to put on a late-night film festival when they discover a movie where the director murders his family on stage and sets the theater on fire for the closing act. Some of the audience members manage to escape the fire, and now, 15 years later, their deadly past is back to haunt them. Ticks, 1993. Starring a young Seth Green and Alfonso Ribeiro and B-movie icon Clint Howard, Ticks is a creature feature about a group of wayward inner-city teens sent to a camp in the woods where they must rely on each other to fight against giant mutant ticks and try to survive. Sometimes They Come Back, 1991. This made-for-TV movie is based off of the Stephen King short story of the same name. It's about a man who accepts a job as a high school teacher in this small town he grew up in until the age of 10 when his older brother was murdered. But shortly after returning, he starts having night terrors, and soon the real nightmares begin in his waking life. Prairie Tales, 1990. This movie stars James Earl Jones and Brad Thrawn, and is about two travelers sharing Western set tales around a campfire in this anthology horror. Personally, I like when a movie is an anthology, especially for novice and beginners of scary movie watching, because it gives them a little sample of different genres of horror to give them an idea of what may scare them and be able to give them a direction of what to watch further into their viewing experience. Level 2. So level 2 is more of a not necessarily scary, but definitely suspenseful with dark undertones and unsettling topics. Think this more as for people that like psychological thrillers and not necessarily for those who like gore and overt violence. Starting with Donnie Darko, 2001. This cult classic stars a young Jake Gyllenhaal. It's about a teen who begins to have visions of a bunny named Frank that seems to be telling him that the world will end soon, and Donnie must follow Frank's orders to keep Armageddon from happening. The psychological thriller is a mix of mystery, sci-fi, dark humor, and surreal horror that requires multiple watches. Pin, 1988. Pin is an underrated Canadian thriller based on a novel by Andrew Schneiderman. It's about two children who grew up believing the life-size medical dummy their father used to explain things like puberty and reproduction to them while using ventriloquism was actually capable of talking. Believing the medical dummy was communicating with him, the doctor's son begins to develop a deeply disturbing bond with the dummy. Triangle, 2009. This mystery thriller is about Jess, who is on a sailing trip with 5 friends until a storm wrecks their ship and eventually encounters an ocean liner they seek refuge on, only to find it deserted and a crazed killer still aboard. There is much more to the plot, but I don't want to give it away. This movie is best watched going in blind. So if you're interested, pass up the trailer and go straight to the movie. The Stepford Wives, 1975. This movie is centered around Joanna, a woman who just moved from New York City with her husband to Stepford, Connecticut, and soon realizes that there is something a little off about the super submissive wives of Stepford, and worries that she will become just like them, and what made these women become the way that they are. This movie is one of the inspirations behind Jordan Peele's Get Out, so if you like that movie, you should give this one a look too. Mind Games, 2012. This movie is about a group of 7 friends who go on a road trip to a cabin in the woods before crashing their van and deciding to search for it on foot. Once finding the cabin fully lit and inviting, they let themselves in, and that's when the odd happenings begin. Much like Triangle, this movie is best not having seen the trailer, so go in blind and enjoy the film. Star Time, 1992. Star Time is about a young man who's obsessed with a television show and becomes suicidal once it's canceled, only to become murderous in hopes of getting public attention. This movie takes the viewer on a journey of a serial killer's crumbling psyche as the city of LA lives in fear of the baby-faced killer. On to level 3 of the iceberg. These movies are genuinely scary and contain a lot more gore, but they're also really fun to watch with friends and like split a case of beer with. So think of these as more of your standard popcorn horror films. With that in mind, we're going to be starting with Dog Soldiers. Is about a squad of British soldiers doing a routine exercise one weekend in the Scottish Highlands when a pack of werewolves emerge, and it quickly becomes soldiers versus werewolves in this horror action comedy. Teeth, 2007. This is a bio-horror about a teenage girl who is a strong believer in abstinence before marriage. When her boyfriend first forces himself on her, he learns the hard way that no means no. This is the perfect movie for a girls' night, and guys, well, there's still plenty of scares in it for you. The Collector, 2009, and The Collection, 2012. From the writer of Saw 4, 5, 6, and Saw 3D, The Collector is about a jewel thief who plans on robbing a mansion only to find another criminal has already broken in and set up an elaborate, deadly traps he must manage his way out of. The Collection, the sequel to it, amps up the action and the traps and the gore in its follow-up. Housebound, 2015. This is a horror comedy from New Zealand about Kylie, a teen who is placed under house arrest when her mother and stepfather take her in. At first, she thinks her mother is silly and going insane for believing the house is haunted, but the longer she stays, the more she starts to believe that something evil is lurking. Luckily, her parole officer is an amateur ghost hunter and is eager to investigate what could be haunting the house. There's an American remake currently in the works, so do yourself a favor and watch the original while you still can. And do it for free. And lastly, the George A. Romero classic, Day of the Dead, 1985. Day of the Dead is the end of the classic of the Dead trilogy, where the human society has crumbled and is near now extinction, while an underground silo scientist work to find a cure with time and supplies quickly running out. Bleak and gory, it's a must-watch for zombie fans and often considered Romero's best work. Both the theatrical and director's cuts are available, so you're guaranteed scares no matter how much time you have to dedicate to this movie. Level 4 is straight-up horror. It varies from psychological to gore. This is flat-out scary, unsettling, disturbing, and sadistic. I like to call this level, you may want to sleep with the lights on level. With that in mind, let's dive deeper. The Mist, 2007. A freak storm unleashes bloodthirsty creatures on a small town where a group of citizens hole up in a supermarket. There, they discover the mist contains something frightening and intent on killing humans. This movie is notorious for its end, and Stephen King himself said that he wished he had done it. This movie is very bleak and visceral, so it's not for the faint, and you're not going to be leaving it with a smile on your face. Scare Campaign, 2016. A group of people run a TV show where they set up locations to scare people. Things go horribly wrong when the producers want them to get darker and set up in an asylum to spook the new target, a really creepy old guy who used to work there. This premise might sound cheesy, but I promise you the paranormal scares in it are anything but. Possession, 1981. This cult classic is about a man who returns home after being away working, only to find his wife is now distant and wants a divorce after she admits to infidelity. But he slowly learns that she is hiding more dark secrets than he had realized. Pontypool, 2008. Radio personality Grant has just started the morning news slot in Pontypool when news of a riot in town has broken out and everyone must quickly quarantine. This is a one-location film that keeps you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoy vintage Stephen King and Dean Koontz, then you might want to give this movie a watch. Horsehead, 2015. This art house horror film is about a woman who begins studying lucid dreams, and over time her dreams begin to bleed into reality. Fans of Dario Argento's surreal horror might want to give this movie a go. The Last Horror Movie, 2003. Max is a wedding photographer who rents a VHS from a video rental store and films over it, taking us, the viewer, into his depravity as a serial killer, putting an interesting spin on the found footage trope. The final level of this iceberg consists of films that have developed notoriety for their depravity, unnerving scenes, and brutal bloodshed. This tier contains topics of animal abuse and murder, sexual violence against the living and dead, and others disturbing taboo topics. It is only for mature viewers. You have been warned. This final level is what I like to call the "how the hell is this on YouTube" tier. Starting with Forgotten, 1990. Presented in a surreal, gory, and entirely visual manner, Forgotten tells the death of religion, the abuse of nature by man, and a nihilistic outlook on what life ultimately is. This movie has developed the reputation among extreme horror fans for its highly disturbing imagery. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. This is about a team of American documentary filmmakers who traveled to South America to document a forgotten tribe, but they disappear. A professor from New York decides to search for them, only to find the troubling footage that they shot before going missing. This movie helped born not only the found footage trope, but also mondo genre. Gritty, gruesome, and grotesque, this movie caused the director to be arrested in Italy for obscenity and even faced murder charges for the deaths of the actors before they appeared in court to prove they were still alive. Headless, 2015. This movie is about a crazed killer who wears a skull mask while he hunts down, decapitates people, and makes sweet, sweet, passionate love to their head. That is a sentence I never thought I'd ever say. But that's it. That's the movie, guys. But let's be serious. If you're interested in a movie like Headless, something tells me you're not watching it for the riveting dialogue. Bite, 2016. This gross-out body horror is about Casey, a bride-to-be on her bachelorette party weekend in an exotic location, who gets bitten by an unknown insect. At first, what seems like just a simple bite takes on deadly and disgusting side effects. This movie won the Audience Award at the Fantasia Film Festival, despite causing 2 viewers to rush out of the theater to vomit in repulsion. So that gives you an idea of what to expect when watching this movie. I Spit on Your Grave franchise, 2010 through 2015. Jennifer is a writer who rents a remote lake house in the woods to write a novel only to be viciously violated by 3 men, including the town's sheriff. Broken but not defeated, Jennifer seeks revenge against those who wronged her. This movie went on to become a trilogy of equally depraved, disturbing, and violent films. So there you have it, guys. The free horror movie Iceberg. Let me know what you thought about it. Is there any film that caught your attention that you want to see more? Are there any that you would like me to watch and review? Let me know what you think. I love to hear from you guys in the comments. If you want to see the Iceberg better in detail, give me a follow on IG. That is bedtime.terror, where you can see the iceberg for yourself in closer detail. Thanks again, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate it. And until next time, sleep tight.